مساء الخير مشاهدينا في كل مكان، برحب بحضراتكم ولقاء يتجدد مع الاقتصاد والناس ومتابعة لكافة الخطوات التي تقوم بها الدولة المصرية من أجل التنمية المستدامة في شتى المجالات. الحقيقة لما بنتكلم عن التنمية بنشهد كافة المشروعات وكافة الخطوات التي تتم في كل محافظات مصر في مجالات متنوعة ومختلفة، ولكن تبقى محافظات لها أولوية خاصة ولها إمكانيات خاصة ويتم التركيز عليها لأنها بالفعل بتمثل أمن قومي لدى الدولة المصرية. تنمية سيناء ليست مجرد تنمية فقط من أجل المساهمة في النمو الاقتصادي، ولكنها تمثل أمن قومي للدولة المصرية. النهاردة هنتابع مع حضراتكم أهم الخطوات التي تمت لتنمية سيناء وتأثيرها على الاقتصاد المصري بشكل عام، وده هيكون من خلال لقائنا مع دكتور منجي بدر الوزير المفوض وعضو الجمعية المصرية للأمم المتحدة للتعرف على أهم الخطوات التي قامت بها الدولة في تنمية سيناء وأثرها على الاقتصاد المصري. لكن قبل أن نبدأ الحوار هتوقف مع حضراتكم مع هذا التقرير، نعود بعده مباشرة. المصرية جهودا كبيرة ومتكاملة لتنمية شبه جزيرة سيناء اقتصاديا واجتماعيا، حيث تعد هذه التنمية أولوية قومية لا تقتصر على الجانب الأمني فقط، بل تمتد لخلق واقع جديد متكامل لأهل سيناء. فالمحور الاقتصادي والتنموي يشمل العديد من المشروعات الزراعية والري، مثل مشروع مستقبل مصر للإنتاج الزراعي، وهو أحد أضخم المشاريع في العالم، ويعتمد على نظام الري الحديث لاستصلاح مئات الآلاف من الأفدنة في منطقة شرق القناة وغرب سيناء، وذلك بهدف تحقيق الأمن الغذائي وتوفير فرص عمل هائلة، مع إنشاء محطات تحلية مياه على سواحل سيناء لتوفير مياه الشرب والري للمجتمعات العمرانية الجديدة، مع تطوير البنية التحتية والطرق، وذلك من خلال إنشاء شبكة طرق قومية عملاقة لتعزيز التجارة، مع تطوير المنتجعات السياحية في جنوب سيناء شرم الشيخ دهب نويبع، ودفع الاستثمارات لها مرة أخرى بعد استعادة الأمن، مع ضمان حياة كريمة وآمنة لأبنائها، وهو ما ينعكس إيجابيا على الأمن القومي المصري ككل.
It's 6 p.m. here in Cairo, and it's time for the news bulletin in English. Coming up will be the headlines in a moment. Prime Minister Madbouli and Spanish King witness opening of joint business forum. Foreign Minister Abdulati meets Saudi officials on boosting bilateral ties. And Egypt keeps providing aid to Gaza as over 20 Palestinians martyred in intensified Israeli occupation offensive. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and visiting Spanish King Philip VI today witnessed the inaugural session of the Egyptian-Spanish Business Forum. The two sides agreed that the event is a real opportunity for boosting the strategic partnership in many fields.
Egypt-Spain Business Forum kicked off on Thursday with the participation of Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and Spanish King Philip VI. Addressing the forum, Prime Minister Madbouli said that the economic reform program that Egypt has followed contributed to achieving development targets that were put by the state and succeeded in attracting direct investment in different domains and providing a suitable environment for businesses. Prime Minister Madbouli pointed that Egypt offers investment incentives in light of its development plan 2030. He added that Egyptian-Spanish partnership entered new horizons, referring to the joint cooperation in various fields, on top of them transport, generating renewable energy, and assembling plasma, pointing to the role of Spanish agency in the irrigation and water fields. Also addressing the forum, Spain's king said that Egypt is the land that endorsed all races. He said this forum is an opportunity to boost economic partnerships between Egypt and Spain. He also said that Egypt is an important meeting point between Asia, Europe, and Africa that enjoys a great economic role. Egypt and Spain have enjoyed decades of deep-rooted relations of cooperation and friendship marked by shared visions, particularly regarding enhancing coordination between countries of the southern and northern Mediterranean in light of the challenges facing the Middle East and the region as a result of ongoing crises in several countries. Furthermore, Egypt represents a strategic investment opportunity for Spanish companies in key sectors such as renewable energy, agricultural technologies, infrastructure, railway transport, water treatment, construction, tourism, and financial services, among others. The country is firmly committed to economic diversification and sustainable development, establishing itself as an attractive platform for companies seeking to expand into Africa and the Arab world in a context of increasing trade openness and strengthened bilateral cooperation with Spain.
Minister of Foreign Affairs today asserted that Egypt is moving forward with its economic and industrial projects with Saudi Arabia into a greater integration, meeting with mutual interests of both countries. The minister made these remarks in a meeting with Minister of Industrial and Mineral Resources Bandar ibn Ibrahim al-Khuraif at the start of his visit to Saudi Arabia, where he cherished the kingdom's efforts for achieving comprehensive economic development. Abdulati expressed Egypt's keenness in boosting bilateral cooperation in priority fields. Separately, Minister of Foreign Affairs Badr Abdulati today met Saudi Trade Minister Majid al-Qasabi, saying that Egypt is committed to remove all hurdles facing Saudi investors. Abdulati expressed Egypt's keen interest in increasing Saudi investments in national market, particularly in sectors relevant to supply chain, transformative industries, and localizing technologies, which would help achieve the development objectives of the two countries, making the best use of their distinguished geographic location. And Minister of Foreign Affairs Badr Abdulati and Qatari Foreign Minister Sheikh Mohammed Abdurrahman al-Thani today asserted the necessity of continued bilateral coordination at international forums, particularly at the UN organizations, in support for the regional security and stability. The two ministers made the assertion in a phone call where they exchanged viewpoints regarding the latest brutal Israeli aggression against Qatar, as well as the rapid changes gripping Gaza. Minister of Foreign Affairs Badr Abdulati also today renewed a call to put an end to the Israeli occupation and the military operations in Gaza. The note came in the phone call with the U.S. Middle East Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, with Egypt's top diplomat warning of repercussions of the Israeli planned evacuation of the Palestinians from the war-torn Strip being a direct threat to the regional security. Abdulati reiterated Egypt's absolute rejection of such plans under any pretext as leading to the liquidation of the Palestinian cause. He called for the quick implementation of a ceasefire deal and the access of humanitarian aid amid the disastrous humanitarian conditions in the Palestinian enclave. Meanwhile, humanitarian and relief aid trucks kept entering Gaza through the Rafah border. The Egyptian Red Crescent said 40th Aid Convoy of National Initiative dubbed Zaid al-Izza reached Gaza in coordination with the Palestinian Red Crescent. The convoy provided by Egypt to Palestinians in the besieged Strip is loaded with more than 80,000 food baskets, tons of wheat, in addition to medical relief and fuel supplies. And Jordanian government said today it was closely watching a security incident that occurred on a border crossing with the occupied West Bank. The Jordanian government said it was looking into the details of an attack and will shortly announce them. Earlier, Israeli medics said that two Israelis were killed by a Jordanian national who allegedly attacked them at the main border crossing between the Israeli-occupied West Bank and Jordan. The Israeli occupation radio reported that the attacker was a Jordanian who arrived at the crossing in a truck carrying aid for the Gaza Strip. The World Health Organization, WHO, warned today that Israeli occupation ground offensive in northern Gaza had left already overwhelmed hospitals on the brink of collapse and demanded an end to these inhumane conditions. The WHO added that occupation's incursion and evacuation orders in northern Gaza are driving new waves of displacement. It also warned that hospitals are nearly out of services as unprecedented escalation of violence blocks access and prevent WHO from delivering life-saving supplies. And the United Nations Security Council is to vote later today on the latest call for a ceasefire and increase humanitarian access to Gaza, on a move supported by a majority seeking to act despite repeated U.S. votes. The 10 non-permanent members initiated discussions on the current draft resolution in late August in response to the UN's official declaration of famine after nearly 2 years of the Israeli occupation genocidal war on the Palestinian territory. Today's session calls for opening access to aid, demands an immediate, unconditional and permanent ceasefire in Gaza that is respected by all parties, as well as immediate and unconditional release of hostages. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer today welcomed U.S. President Donald Trump to his country home of Chequers for talks on different issues, including trade, Ukraine and Gaza, after the U.S. President hailed his second state visit to the U.K. as the highest honor. The British Prime Minister has positioned himself as a bridge between the U.S. leader and European allies, particularly on the war in Ukraine, in a bid to secure more commitments for Kiev from Trump. Also today, U.S. President Donald Trump and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer formally signed a tech partnership to strengthen cooperation, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and nuclear energy. Starmer said it is the biggest investment package of its kind in British history, calling the agreement groundbreaking. Iran expressed readiness to reach a balanced and just settlement with European powers and its nuclear program after the phone calls between Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and his British, French, and German counterparts. A French diplomatic source said the calls aimed at discussing in implementing the imposition of UN sanctions by the European powers and to reaffirm conditions they have set for Tehran to enable that decision to be delayed. Tehran said it is ready to negotiate, seeking to avert the reimposition of international sanctions. And Russia. Meanwhile, in the world of economy, Egypt's bourse closed higher today amid purchases by Arab and foreign corporations and investment funds against sell-offs by local investors and corporations. The market capital of listed companies added 15 billion Egyptian pounds, reaching 2.5 trillion pounds at the end of transactions that reached 25 billion pounds. The benchmark index EGX 30 rose 1.22% above the 35,000 point mark. The equal weighted indices EGX 70 and EGX 100 climbed 0.6% and 0.19% respectively. And Deputy Prime Minister for Industrial Development, Minister of Industry and Transportation, Kamel El Wazir, received Gambian Minister of Defense to revive means of expanding cooperation in transport, infrastructure, and industry fields. The meeting also touched on preparations to carry out joint mega projects, as well as readiness by many Egyptian firms to carry out infrastructure and industrial projects in Gambia. The Gambian guest expressed high appreciation to Egypt and said his country is keen on benefiting from Egyptian expertise in the field of infrastructure. That ends the English with the news bulletin for now. Thank you for joining us.